The NICEHCK Rockies. Let's talk about it. The NICEHCK Rockies is a single dynamic driver 2BA 2 EST IEM from NICEHCK that costs around $500. I've reviewed a few of NICEHCK's IEMs in the past, and they were actually samples. So when I heard about this, I actually reached out to NICEHCK and I asked them for a sample. They were like, no. Okay, so I asked them for a discount. They also told me no. So I actually bought this used market from a guy on AV Exchange on Reddit. He's kind of a legend. His name's Mark. Great dude. And great seller. So I bought this in the used market, even though it's a relatively new IEM. And with that, let's start by looking at the build quality of this IEM. This is a hollow resin shell, but it doesn't give me any problems. I don't feel that it's not going to be durable. I've had some problems with some hollow resin shells, but this one looks to be of good quality. It has a metal nozzle. It has a slightly recessed 2-pin cable connector. The face plates are a little bit smudged. I did wipe them down. It does have a vent to this. It is comfortable. It doesn't have a little anti-tragus catch, but it does isolate well, which is important for me in my situation. I also wanted to show you what this looks like with the cable on. Now, this is actually a swappable termination. You can pull this little end of it off and switch it to a 3.5 if you so choose to. This is what the cable looks like on the IEM. A little bit of space in between the IEM and the cable, which is okay, but maybe not ideal for some. This is the cable itself. It is a nice overall well done cable. It is spongy. It feels really thick, juicy, and it lays flat. I can't really ask much else out of a cable. I like this cable a lot. It doesn't have a chin slider, but you can buy a little like knob if kind of thing to add a chin slider to this if you want. Red for right, white for left. Kind of a nice little cable in my opinion. It also has a nice set of accessories with 2 little boxes for tips and a little cleaning brush. The case itself is rather exceptional. Now, this is the NICEHCK case. My favorite case that I own is the ELTEC Cavalier case, which is about $80, and this is almost the exact same style quality of case. And so, I really feel the NICEHCK does accessories very well. I would say are the better half and maybe even the most premium feeling accessories. I feel that they've outdone themselves this time. I really like the cable. I really like the case. The design of it's kind of okay, but all around, great package, great pricing, and it feels very premium. So how does this sound? The bass is nice and tight. It's clean and rich. It's never flabby or poor. It doesn't sound off to me. It has a nice natural tonality. The bass is controlled. Again, I didn't have any problems with it, which is not very frequently. There are a lot to be said about the upper treble being really right for this set. It's really quite a remarkable amount of treble. Now, it is slightly detailed, like things feel a little bit twinkly and sparkly. That the amount of upper treble and just kind of detail is done very, very well. And so it has a natural, clean, clear sort of a feeling to it. This is a very nice IEM. We're going to make a lot of the comparison sections, but I am very impressed with this. But there's also a lot of other good IEMs out there. We'll try to make some comparisons and talk about this guy's place in the market and how I rate this IEM. But I'll tell you shortly that I am impressed with this sonically, as well I am with the packaging and unboxing experience for this price. All right, the NICEHCK Rockies. Let's look at the graph. You'll notice it's very, very flat. With a little bit of treble boost and kind of slightly kiltered off after that. The treble in this, again, feels slightly detailed and sparkled, but it doesn't feel exaggerated or too much. Try to keep the comparisons to a minimum here. I'm going to look at NICEHCK's other things. A lot of people talk about how sound. This is kind of not what NICEHCK normally does. This is the NICEHCK F1 Pro, which I reviewed, and I rather liked. I guess I actually have reviewed the DB2 as well, so we can put that up there. So let's start with that, the DB2. And the DB2 is kind of has a lot of upper mids, and it, I can see how some people would like it. It was too upper midsy for me, and that's kind of my take. But it has some interesting things about it, but it didn't have the most natural feeling with it, and it really wasn't there. It's kind of warm and not really flat. Bass wasn't very well controlled. Kind of one of those things. The F1 Pro is a nice IEM. It's not really my bag, but it does have a lot of upper treble. It does have a nice bass. It does have good upper mids, and it's basically just a plain R driver. And if it works for you, it becomes a really, really good value with a nice amount of detail and sparkle, and could be a good IEM for you. It's very pretty, very, very well done. But to me, it's kind of just, sort of okay. Then you have the NICEHCK NX8, and they've actually done a reversion of this. What you notice is quite a bit of bass in this. It reminds me a lot of like an Awful Performer 7. And I know a lot of people like the NICEHCK NX8, and that's fine. I think it's a fine set. But it's one of those sets that I always just kind of thought is like, it's fine. It's okay. I see how people would get it, and kind of the same thing with the F1 Pro. And that's not what I get from the Rockies. The Rockies, to me, it's an instant classic. It's very nice. And to me, it's a different tuning that the brand has done. And I think it's very, very nice and very well and tactfully done. As far as I wanted to show you guys a few impressions of stuff and talk about things. First of all, let's talk about the Mega 5 EST bass. Now, I like the Mega 5 EST bass, but it does have a crazy amount of bass and can be a little bit too much. But if it works for you, it can be very, very nice. I feel like with that amount of bass, you need a little bit more treble or a little bit more air to kind of counterbalance it, to kind of really overcome that amount of bass without it almost drowning out everything, which kind of becomes a problem. But it's a nice set. I can see how people like it. But what's important about this is I want you to look at this level of the treble, like the 4 to 8K. So now we're going to put up the High Senior Mega 5 EST. And what you'll notice about the Mega 5 EST is that its treble and bass are about the same. But I just want you to notice that gap between the bass plus version and the Rockies. There's just a lot of this kind of 5 to 6K energy, and even 8K, and the energy is off, and a little bit extra 10K. This whole region is way different, right? So we're gonna go and get rid of the bass just so we can focus on these two. And you'll notice, my personal feeling is I got one of the bad Mega 5 ESTs. Now, there was 2 different tunings, and this happens all the time, dude. There was a silent retune of a Soft Ears RSV. There is, there's a lot of sometimes retunes of IEMs where they came out with different versions, and they come out like even the Monarch MK2. Like I had a version that was lent to me from Mark from Super Reviews. Then I bought one used market, and they had completely different tunings. Completely different. It almost looked like completely different drivers, despite it kind of being relatively the same. And so you do get different tonality sometimes, and I know that High Senior had a little bit of debacle, and I had that. So my personal feeling is, if you didn't get one of the ones from High Senior that got borked, and you got a really good Mega Fest, it could have been better, right? And I know that's kind of a long explanation, but it's hard for me to really compare my version of High Senior Mega 5 EST versus the Rockies. I love the Rockies and think it's fantastic, but I think I got a borked version. If you got the good version of that, I think there'd be no reason to buy the Rockies. I think you got a really great IEM, but I think I kind of got a borked IEM, but that's just kind of me, but maybe I'm wrong. As far as other IEMs at this price, there's the YU9 Chue. Now, the YU9 Chue is very audiophile. It's very much like a cheaper Elysian Annihilator. It's fantastic. Its mids aren't as mid-focused. It's really nice and clean and clear. It is a fantastic set. You're seeing a lot more other reviews from this now. I really like the YU9 Chue, and I think it's a very, very good set that I think people are going to like. But you'll notice this extra 1K hump, which can kind of build up your vocals a little bit in a different kind of a manner. You lose a lot in the 6K, which sometimes things will come across a little bit more sibilant and flat. But it's a nice tonality if you really want to crank things up, as I feel like this region becomes sibilant to me on certain times and certain tracks. It really depends what you're looking for. They have different tunings enough where they both complement each other very well. if someone had to ask me which one's the better value, I would say the YU9 If you're really looking for end game for 500, I would go the NICEHCK Rockies, but again, it looks a lot like the High Senior Mega 5 EST if you get the good version, if you can roll the die and get the good version. But that's just the problem about the hobby, man. You don't know what you're going to get. You don't know how it's going to fit in your ear. You don't know how it's going to sound good in your ear, which becomes a whole nother debate, which is something hard to talk about sometimes. As far as like another set that I got the other day, I got these actually on the same day. This is the Soptheres RSV MK2. I recently did a review of this. A couple things to notice that I noticed very strongly, that they both have really good mids. The Soptheres RSV has a lot better bass, and so certain tracks it sounds a lot better. So the Soptheres RSV MK2's bassier. It doesn't have this like 11-12K amount of detail, so the detail is a little bit, I would say borked, but just a little bit more mellow. This is a more mellow, dark set, well as the NICEHCK Rockies is a little bit lively, a little bit bright, a little bit treble lightly, but they're both done very well and they complement each other. But I could see people not wanting that amount of bass and wanting a more natural sound. And those are two IEMs that I kind of would say they complement each other well and how they contrast. I think it's interesting to note. Another IEM to think about, the Oracle MK3. I don't really talk about it a lot. To me, it felt sibilant. It felt like it was just trying to jack up the treble up here. It felt like it was just kind of going too much. But I mean, if you look at the bass and you look at the mids, they're almost very similar until this 1K. And so like a lot of IEMs will have very, very similar qualities. And you just kind of got to find out where you're sensitive to, what works for you. I will say that this version, my NICEHCK Rockies, the one that I have in my hands, is what I consider to be quite fantastic. But everybody's a little bit different. Want to show you another IM that might be cheaper, that might people have like the Kriner Meta, whatever you want to say. I say Meta, you say Meta, tomato, whatever. But I really like the Meta, and I think it was a good set. Well, the sets I kind of sold just because I didn't really need it in my life. I just don't need that many sets, and so I let it go. But it is a very fantastic set. I know that Krin's doing a second version of the Meta, which will be done in a longer terms, which I think is kind of excited. But this nice kind of even kilter sort of a set can be really quite lovely. And if you have something like the Meta or like another set, this may not be for you, especially if you like it. But I do feel like the finer grain, like instrument separation on the Rockies is very nice, but tonality, there's a lot of other sets that are right about the same price that can be had for quite a bit cheaper. All right, NICEHCK Rockies, let's rank this up. For me, this is very high value leading. Like I look at other sets at this area and I feel like there's issues with them. Like the Europa has a lot of treble, might not like. The Alien Brain has a lot of bass and this kind of has a different approach. Like it's one of those ones that almost suffers from too much bass. The Duno Glacier has issues with its mids. The YU9 Shui is very, very similar, but again, a different tonality, which I think the general population may not like. I feel like it's more tuned for people who want that Elysian House sound / audiophile style. But the NICEHCK Rockies, let's give this dude a gold star. I always am trying to find what I feel is true bargain sets. Now, again, if you find I did not rate, like if you looked way down here at the Mega 5 EST, I don't know, where it is. Yeah, I find your Mega 5 EST. If you got the good version of it, I really feel that it would be basically the exact same IEM for this price. If you love it, I think it's a very fine set, very clean set, and very good set. All right, NICEHCK Rockies at the price. I think it's solid. I think it's price leading in this category. It's a lot of money to spend on IEM. I mean, if someone told me what's the real advantage to get this for the YU9 Shui, I mean, better accessories, slightly better sound. It's very minimalistic at this point, and so you kind of have to like take a trust me bro kind of attitude with a lot of this stuff. I really think the NICEHCK Rockies is a fantastic meta-tuned set that I like. As far as by brand, to me, it's no doubt. Like the NXA, the NF1 Pro, I just think we're okay. I mean, the DB2 is debatably F tier, and I mean, it's just kind of okay. This is something I think that NICEHCK has done that the team there can be really happy with. It's a special set, and I really like it. I really like the delicateness of the treble. Finding an IEM that works for you that has good treble is hard. I rarely found this amount of treble fatiguing, or even something like the Annihilator 2023, which I daily drove for about a year. I felt like it would get really, really like fatiguing the amount of treble this had. To me, this has just that right amount of almost realism treble, and I just think it's a really sweet kind of a sound. It makes things sound really natural, really clean, really clear. It's a well done IEM that impresses me, and I think is a price that is also impressive in some regards. In some regards, this is just an audiophile slew expensive set, and you'd be better off getting the Moondrop Q2, and that's something that like a lot of people like. It's just a hobby. I think it's a nice set. I think this. I think overall the packaging is great. I think for me, for my experience with this versus the IMs I've demoed and checked out, I think this is a great addition to a mid-fi treble set. Would I call it benchmark worthy? I mean, no, but it's a nice set at 500. It's a really good set for me. Calling something a benchmark for everybody's, it's hard to say. But for me, I think this is a great, well done set that I think if you're on the fence about it, you should buy it. If you're not, yeah, you're probably okay trying some EQ or some other things. I mean, there's a lot of IEMs out there that can do a little bit more bass, a little bit more air and detail, and you might even enjoy better for half the price. So that's also something to consider. Thanks for watching my video. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. And have a great day. Bye-bye.
Go! Go!
Go!
Go on with you!
You're mid, you're mid, you're mid, you're legendary. You're mid. Jaytis out.